Culinary Union's filed a lawsuit against several locations inside the MGM Grand, the Bellagio, with MGM Resorts, and also with Harrah's Resort, locations inside Harrah's Resort, with Caesars Entertainment on behalf of the Culinary Union members. Those are folks, we work in those casinos on the Las Vegas Strip, and we've done this in order to protect workers and their families from the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace. And now, unfortunately and tragically, since March 1st, 22 Culinary Union members and their family or family members that we cover have died from COVID-19. We're suing these companies for injunctive relief under the Labor Management Relations Act regarding hazardous working conditions. And the idea is that we're not going to be able to wait for some long grievance procedure, and that's why we've sought injunctive relief. The lawsuit alleges these hotels have not protected workers or families in the community from the spread of COVID-19 in a proper manner. Current rules and procedures responding to workers contracted COVID-19 have not been adequate and dangerously inadequate. And speaking for myself, for our members, and for Giaconda, our Secretary Treasurer, but the reality is a lawsuit against these casino companies is really just the beginning of the Culinary Workers Union's legal efforts to make sure that workers are fully protected. We're going to make sure we continue to collect, and we have been collecting worker statements since we filed for injunctive relief, collecting evidence regarding unsafe working conditions throughout the Strip, downtown, and the resort industry throughout the Las Vegas Valley. And we're going to back up workers who have had the courage to come forward and share information, and they've been willing to speak up for themselves and their families. We have also sent to the governor of Nevada, the governor's office, and also the state legislature, the Adolfo Fernandez bill. And we've asked that it be placed on the agenda for the upcoming Nevada legislative session, special session. It's in session now. We're asking this to be seen and dealt with. And it addresses and would mandate very specific things. Part of our problem in Nevada is that there has been various areas that have to be dealt with through different agencies. We want something very clear from the governor's office and also from the legislature. It would require enhanced cleaning procedures, including daily room cleaning of guest rooms in hotels, enforce social distancing, free testing for all workers before going back to work, or those that have been exposed to COVID-19, temperature checks for workers and guests mandated, and detailed and public plans of action when workers contract COVID-19 or are exposed, and enhance and additional safety training. So I think that we just want to be clear about this. We're going to be very aggressive. We're not going to stop. We're going to do whatever it takes to make sure casino companies in Las Vegas agree to have the highest levels of health and safety protocols. And look, all of these things that we're talking about are very important. Well, let's just talk about daily room cleaning, the daily cleaning of guest rooms. Some casino companies have decided to discontinue regular cleaning of guest rooms. It's crazy. We believe science does not support that. It's actually the opposite. If rooms are left dirty for days on end, it's more dangerous for guests and for workers. And that's just one of the issues that we have in the Adolfo Fernandez bill. And we intend to fight very hard to make sure that we get clear direction from the legislature and governor on that. Las Vegas, we believe, needs to be the cleanest, safest place for casino patrons. And that's what we intend to make sure that happens. Now, I want to say a couple other things on nationally. We have called on Congress and President Trump to adopt America's 5 essential economic essentials. We want it to be the centerpiece of legislation that is coming up. Keeping America healthy, #1, and protecting and expanding health insurance for all workers, frontline workers safe and secure, workers employed extending benefits for unemployed and protecting pensions, public schools, postal service, state and local governments, solvent, and building infrastructure. And we've asked Congress and President Trump to make sure that this happens. Now, we've got some folks with us right now. Lino, who's a laundry worker at Caesars Entertainment, who are going to have questions. Chad Nanover, cook at Margaritaville, and Cris Barnion, cook at Cosmopolitan. They're active members of Culinary Workers Union Local 226. And they're here to talk to one of our very best friends. I'd like to say just a couple things about Steven. He's a Culinary 226 member, one that we're so proud of. He's locally from Las Vegas. He's been in the trenches. He ran our training center. He's helped thousands and thousands of Las Vegans be able to move into good union casino jobs. He's been a friend of workers on the picket line, in the legislature here in the state, and now in Congress. So I just want to say with the warmest regards, we've worked real closely with you, Steven, and we're going to be in this fight together hand in hand. So Congressman Horsford, we're really happy to be with you here today.
Thank you, and hello. It's great to be with everyone. Good afternoon, and thank you, President Pappageorge, and to all of the members of the Culinary Workers 226, the greatest and best and most effective union anywhere in the country. I'm so proud to be a part of 226. You all literally helped raise me from my career, starting with the Culinary Academy of Las Vegas for more than 10 years, having the honor of giving the skills and training to tens of thousands of workers throughout Southern Nevada. It gives me great pride to be with all of you today. And I want to thank, first and foremost, you, President Pappageorge, and the Culinary Union 226 for everything that you've been doing to help serve our communities during this time. I was just over by the Culinary Academy this morning. I saw the cars coming in to pick up boxes of meals for members who have been dislocated. I know you've been providing tens of thousands of meals since March, and really the frontline workers who are essential to moving our community and our country forward in the face of a global health and economic pandemic unlike anything I've ever seen, and I think most of us have ever seen in our lifetime. I also want to take a moment to remember the 22 brothers and sisters we have lost to this pandemic, especially Adolfo Fernandez, a beloved brother who we recently lost while working on the front lines. I believe that we must uplift his story as well as that of many others who have risked their life and their health, really to provide a living for themselves and their families. And I've heard the story of Adolfo's daughter. She has been so sincere in what she has expressed about her dad and his commitment to his family and to his brothers and sisters in the culinary workers. Our essential workers, whether they be healthcare, first responders, teachers, postal workers, transit, sanitation, food, and so many others, literally risk their lives each day on the front lines and fear endangering their children and families when they return home simply to provide a living for themselves and their families. Workers are the backbone of our economy and our country. So during this pandemic and throughout our nation's history, we cannot abandon them now as they sacrifice on the front lines of this pandemic. I'm a proud product of the organizing work of 226, and I will always be grateful to this union for what you have done to help me be in a position to serve not only in Congress, but in my previous position in the state Senate as majority leader for 4 years. And I understand how important worker safety is for Nevada, and I stand with you in your calls for these worker safety provisions. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit with me today so that I can listen directly to your members about your needs and your concerns. Now, I'd like to take just a few minutes to talk about some of the work that I've been doing in Congress so that you know how we are fighting for you. This dire situation shows the urgent need for a bold legislative package that is equal to the crisis that is gripping our nation. We owe our heroes in the fight against the coronavirus an enormous debt of gratitude. Nevada's healthcare, first responders, teachers, transit, food, sanitation, and other essential workers, as I said, risk their lives to save other lives every single day. And they're now at risk of losing their jobs as our local governments suffer revenue loss in this crisis. Preliminary estimates from the House Appropriations Committee report that Nevada's state government could receive $2.64 billion, while Nevada's cities and counties would receive $1.76 billion. In 2021, the state could receive an estimated $3.4 billion, with counties and cities receiving an additional $880 million. That is what the HEROES Act, which the House has passed, it's sitting over on Mitch McConnell's desk in the Senate, and we're calling on him and other Senate Republicans and the Trump administration to take up this bill, to provide more direct payments to Nevada's families, with a second round of direct cash payments to families that would receive up to $6,000 per household. New payroll protection measures to help keep 60 million workers connected with their jobs, and extending the weekly $600 federal unemployment payments through next January. The HEROES Act also includes two provisions that I'm proud to have championed. The first is the Worker Health Protection Act to cover 100% of COBRA costs for laid off or furloughed workers. I know that this is a critical piece of legislation that is especially important for our culinary members who rely on their excellent union-fought health plans. The HEROES Act also includes my bill, the Nursing Facility Quality Reporting Act, which would require the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services to publish demographic information on COVID-19 infections and deaths in long-term care facilities, because we know that this virus disproportionately affects communities of color. This is some of the work that my colleagues in Congress and I are working on to ensure protections for workers and families. And I'm going to continue to fight. We are going back in on Monday. I'm in Las Vegas right now, but I wanted this opportunity to meet with and talk with frontline members about their experience, what it is they're grappling with. And I want to thank you for allowing me to share their stories, for this opportunity for me to hear from all of you. So if you have a question on Facebook, please type it into the chat. And on Zoom, you can raise your hand and we'll get you into the question. So thank you again, President Pappageorge, and to the Culinary Workers 226 for this great opportunity. And thank you for what you do each and every single day. I'll turn it back over.
Okay. So thank you so much, Steven. So we do have some of our great members here, Lino, Chad, and Cris. And I think at this time, we'd like to get some questions. And Lino, are you ready to go? I am. If you
Yes,
are.
sir. Yes, sir.
Great.
My name is Lino Paredes, and I work for the Sister Palace Laundry. I'm a utility reporter there. So my question is Congress going to protect and expand health insurance for all workers?
Well, thank you, Lino. Thank you for your hard work, and thank you for being active in the Culinary Workers 226. So yes, the House has passed provisions in the HEROES Act to protect benefits, healthcare benefits for all workers. We also just passed the Affordable Care Act, the ACA Enhancement Act, which would help make healthcare more affordable. It would help shore up the healthcare exchanges here in Nevada, as well as provide more benefits under Medicaid. Right now, about 1/3 of the Nevada population is enrolled in Medicaid, and we want to provide more federal support to Nevada to provide those healthcare benefits. So we want to protect your hard-fought healthcare plans, make them more affordable, but also provide for COBRA benefits for those who may be unemployed or furloughed based on the reduction of hours. So my bill, the Worker Health Protection Act, would actually provide 100% coverage. It would cover 100% of the employee portion and 100% of the employer portion for the COBRA benefits for up to 15 months for anyone laid off or furloughed as a result of COVID. That is something that is in the HEROES Act. It has passed the House. It's one of the 400 bills that's on the desk over in the Senate. And so we're calling on Mitch McConnell, Senate Republicans, and the Trump administration to take up these bills, because we know that they're very important to you, to your families, and to other workers throughout the country.
Can I just add something to that question, Stephen? Because the Culinary Workers Union, healthcare is incredibly important. You've been a champion for us in pushing for healthcare protections. And so we're quite concerned about our members and their families, but it's also not just our members and families, it's all hospitality workers. And that's really, really who we're trying to fight to protect. And so while we have a Taft-Hartley plan that we've worked very hard and we think we've got the best benefits out there, certainly when folks aren't working, we're gonna need help, and we're gonna need the help that you're talking about. But there's a lot of folks out there that aren't covered by good health plans, or that are really struggling and not sure where they're gonna get their benefits from. So I wonder if you could, kind of comment on that, because it's a very difficult situation. It's a difficult.
Well, the hospitality industry, we know, is the most impacted industry of any sector of our economy, not just here in Nevada, but across the country, right? We have in Nevada the highest rate of unemployment right now. I know the numbers dropped this last week, which is great news, but prior to that, we were nearing 30% unemployment, and it's largely from the hospitality sector. That's true across the country. And this sector, the hospitality, hotel workers, restaurant workers, have been the most impacted. And so the way I serve on the Ways and Means Committee, we actually had a hearing where the international president for Unite Here spoke along with other industry leaders. And at that hearing, we talked about the fact that there needed to be more targeted relief for the hospitality industry, for the restaurant sector, because this is the hardest hit industry. One of the things that the ACA enhancement bill would do is for states that did not pass Medicaid, for whatever reason, their Republican governors or Republican legislatures simply haven't enacted it, this bill would allow those residents in those states to finally have access to Medicaid. That is a huge benefit, particularly in the South and in the Midwest, where some of those states have not done it. We're fortunate here in Nevada. We had a governor, the first Republican governor in the country, in fact, Governor Brian Sandoval, who enacted the Medicaid expansion. I give credit where credit is due. This is not a partisan issue. People should want all of their constituents to have health insurance, affordable, quality health insurance, so that they can get the health care that they need. And that is something that I will continue to fight for, because I do know how important it is. And as you said, President Pappageorge, here in Las Vegas with 226, you have fought for the best health care there is in this industry. And unfortunately, that's not the case in some other places. And so part of what we're trying to do in Congress is to shore that up through the Affordable Care Act by enhancing those benefits to those residents.
Thanks, Congressman. Next, we have a question from Chad Ninover. He was a cook at Margaritaville. Chad, I didn't get a chance to ask Lino to do this. I apologize, Lino, but just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we know you have a question.
My name is Chad Ninover. I've worked at Margaritaville for 17 years. Also a proud union member. I have a son. I have a adult son and adult daughter, and my 4-year-old granddaughter, my princess beyond princess, lives with me as well. And my wife, that actually on the 3rd we have celebrated our 27th anniversary. So the union has really helped me have an amazing family and great experiences. And my question to you, sir, is what is Congress doing to keep workers employed, extend benefits for the unemployed, and to protect earned pension checks?
Thank you, Chad. It's great to hear you talk about your family and your 4-year-old granddaughter. I can tell you are a proud grandfather, and you beam with pride to talk about your family, and that says a lot. So we are doing a lot in the House to try to protect people's paychecks, protect their health care, and protect their pensions, their retirement. Those are the 3 priorities that we're focused on. To protect their paycheck, you know, we have the Paycheck Protection Bill, which I know Unite Here and other unions have endorsed. I am a co-sponsor of that bill. It's with Pramila Jayapal, Congresswoman Jayapal from Washington State, which would, if enacted, provide up to $100,000 of wage replacement in order to keep people connected to their job. We have already voted to extend unemployment benefits. That's extra $600 a week that's been provided since April. That is a provision that the Congress approved. I do know that that is set to expire at the end of July, and so we are working to try to get that extended until January of 2021. We also are working to try to keep people connected to their job, and a big part of that has been funding through the Paycheck Protection Program to companies, where they literally are able to get a loan forgiveness by retaining their workers and their workforce. To help people protect their health care, we have sponsored the bill, the Worker Health Protection Bill that I sponsored, which would cover the 100% of the COBRA payments that I just talked about. We just passed the Affordable Care Act Enhancement Bill, which would also help people protect their health plans. To protect their pensions and their retirement, again, as a member of the Ways and Means Committee, this is in our jurisdiction. And so we have worked to pass what's called the Secure Act. That's to help shore up tax credits to businesses that provide retirement to their employees. And that is something that did get enacted. It was signed into law and is now available. We also passed the Butch-Lewis Act, which is very important to labor to help protect those pensions which were underfunded due no fault of their own. And those are pensions that unions have fought for as part of their benefits. And we wanted to make sure that they remain intact. So those are just some of the things that we have done so far. I also know that education and shoring up the Postal Service and the public sector unions are also important. And so we've been fighting to do that as well. But those are the 3 areas specifically around worker wages, worker health care, and worker pensions that we've been focused on.
Congressman, can I ask you, can you talk a little bit more about the public sector areas that, look, those are close allies of ours. We work in the trenches together, and they're really getting hammered. So helpful to
you know, as you said, President Pappageorge, you know, before I went to Congress, I'm proud to have served in the Nevada State Senate for 8 years, 4 years as the majority leader. I was the majority leader in 2009 during the last recession that we experienced. And at that time, we were faced with cutting our state budget by nearly 30%. So I know the difficult job that the governor and the legislature are up against right now. I feel for them because it's not an easy position to be in. No one wants to cut funding for anything, let alone education, social services, and public safety. But to your point, these are also the frontline essential workers who work in the public sector, who provide these essential services, right? I mean, if it's not for but for the nurses, but for the caseworkers, but for the public safety workers, we don't have the quality of life that we need here in Nevada or across the country. So the HEROES Act would provide $500 billion of funding to the states and local governments. Nevada would be tapped to receive nearly $8 billion. That is a significant amount of money that would help them cover the lost revenue from the fact that the casinos have been closed, the major employers throughout the state, their revenues have dropped, so they're not paying as much in taxes to our state and local government. So only the federal government can come in and be a partner to our state and local governments in a way that they simply can't. And that is why we need Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans and the Trump administration to work with the House to get this bill passed. It's already passed the House, and we actually got some Republican support when the bill passed. So we need this bill passed immediately before the end of July or early August so that state and local governments know what's available. And these are the public sector employees. They are our caseworkers. They're the ones at the TSA working at the airport. They are essential workers in public safety. So we need them. They're firefighters. The people that were fighting the fire up in Mount Charleston recently, those are the same people that we're trying to protect through this HEROES Act. So I really appreciate the culinary workers and Unite Here pushing for this legislation. And I made a mistake. I said it was $500 billion. It's actually $1 trillion of funding to state and local government when you add it all together. 500 billion, I think, goes to the state, and another 500 billion goes to all of the local governments. So taken together, it's $1 trillion of funding to our public sector frontline essential workers.
And it's absolutely needed. So we thank you for your fight for that. It's going to be a fight, that's for sure.
Mitch McConnell needs it in Kentucky too. You know, it's not just Nevada that needs it. It's places like Kentucky that he represents. And so that's the case we're making, is he's got constituents who benefit from these essential services and these essential workers. And we're going to put the pressure on. And I know Culinary and Unite Here are standing arm in arm with other public sector unions to make that happen.
Absolutely. Great, thanks. I was remiss in not allowing Lino to tell us a little bit about himself and his story. So Lino, if you're still there, if you can take yourself off of mute, and look, we'd like to hear more about your personal story and, you know, what you do at the Union Active, and also a little bit more about yourself.
Okay, sure. My name is Lino Paredes. And like I said, I work for Sister Palace Laundry. I'm a utility reporter there. See, let me tell you something about myself. When I started working as a union member, my wife, she got pregnant. So I have a baby boy. At this moment, he's 6 months old. And well, I was very glad because of my insurance. My insurance helped me a lot, and it took a lot of stress off me. People used to tell me how expensive labor was, but it wasn't that expensive for me because of the great insurance that we have as a union member. And I like to keep my insurance, and I have like everybody. I like everybody to have an insurance because it's very important to have insurance here in this country.
All right.
Congratulations on the birth of your 6-month-old. What's his or her name?
His name is Lenny.
All right.
Lenny, yes.
Lenny after Lino.
Right. Yeah, well, thank you.
Congratulations. And yeah, that's why health insurance is so important. And new babies cost a lot of money, and they cost more as they get older. So I'm glad you are part of the culinary and that those health benefits are available. And it's why we're working so hard to protect your health care and the benefits from your job. So thank you for being a part of the union and making sure that your voice is heard in this process.
Thanks, Lino. So our third member, Cris Barnion. Cris, I know that we'd like to hear a little bit about you also, and then I know you have a question. So Cris, let's hear from you.
Hi, good afternoon, Congressman. My name is Cris Barnion. I cook at the Cosmopolitan in Las Vegas. A little bit of my background. I am an immigrant. I came to this country when I was 17, 16 years old. And, you know, I've seen everything from President Obama government to this government, which is fighting us. You know, every time we see it, it's dangerous what this government is doing. And now with my union, I have the power, you know, to fight back, fight for our rights in the casinos, demand stuff that we need. So my question for you, Congressman, is will COBRA premiums provision as passed by the HERO Act will be included in the final deals?
Well, thank you, Cris. Good to meet you over Zoom. And I'm a proud son of an immigrant. My mom came to the United States when she was 12 years old from Trinidad and Tobago. And so I do know how important immigration is. My mom is a legal permanent resident and working towards her citizenship. So I do know the impacts of a broken system and how much anxiety and just frustration there is with so many families feeling like they can be torn apart or separated at any point. So Congress, the House has passed the Dream and Promise Act. And again, it's one of those 400 bills that's sitting over in the Senate. Fortunately, the Supreme Court, as you know, did vote to indicate the Trump administration's decision to not continue DACA was basically unfair and capricious, I think is the term that they used, ambiguous and capricious, and basically ordered that the administration work with Congress to extend and codify that program. So I am hopeful that we will get something done on the Dream and Promise Act before the end of this year. Again, it's already passed the House. All we need is for Mitch McConnell and the Senate Republicans and the Trump administration to do their job and to pass our bill or to work to negotiate a new bill. But there is the willingness on our part. It is something that we absolutely know needs to get done. And beyond just DACA, we need to pass comprehensive immigration reform in this country. As you said, this administration has used every effort to divide us as a nation, to pit community against community, to incite racist and religious bigotry and xenophobia. And so we need leaders who will stand up against that. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do as a member of Congress, because the people of my district expect me to speak for them, to speak for our immigrant community and those who are aspiring to become full-fledged citizens. And we will continue to work towards that goal.
Thanks, Congressman. I appreciate that. I actually had a question for Christian. I wonder how, Cris, that you get this incredible reception in the middle of the deep forest like that. How you do that?
That's funny. No, actually, it's a picture I took. I went to the 100 Giant Trail in Sequoia Park in California, and I took this picture over there.
Well, I'm just kidding, but I actually very wish I was there. Congressman, I'm curious because we have a little bit of time and we have some other quite important issues sitting out there. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to talk to us a little bit about, we have done a lot of work here on, and especially the governor has appointed a committee that headed by Jim Murin to kind of help figure out how we can ramp up testing in the state of Nevada. Been very helpful, but even with those efforts, with UMC jumping in with their own testing now, based on that help, the public testing is taking longer, sometimes several days. And then this issue of contact tracing and where we're coming from, Congressman, that there has to be clearly adequate testing, but also money to be able to make sure that we can have contact tracing, real contact tracing done. And it's been very difficult. We set a record 2 days ago with over 1,000 cases in Nevada. I know part of the HEROES Act and part of the legislation we're pushing is for money to really try to take a look how we can support those efforts. I'd like to know if you can tell us a little bit about your thoughts about, one, just the need for the availability of testing that we've got to have, but also the issue of isolating cases, what other countries have done with contact tracing.
Well, this is the biggest issue that we needed leadership on from the very beginning, from the very top. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and we have the result of the spread of this virus, which could have been contained earlier, and that could have been mitigated from a national perspective. You know, I commend Governor Sisolak and our local leaders for doing everything that they have here in Nevada, taking quick action to close down facilities and operations in order to protect our community. And as we reopen, just making sure that workers as well as customers and the community are safe. Let me say a couple of things. First, you know, the first, we passed a bill, CARES 2, which provided $25 billion for a national testing tracing strategy. And then in the HEROES Act, we added another $75 billion in grants to public health agencies. The $25 billion has been approved, that's been enacted. That money is starting to get to the public health agencies. I know Nevada is benefiting from that. But the $75 billion, which again was approved by the House, hasn't been acted upon in the Senate. We hope that before the end of July, it will. As you indicated, this deals with the workforce and health department agencies to help support testing, contact tracing, surveillance, as well as containment and mitigation activities. We've got to be able to test people, have adequate testing, test them and get the results back quickly, because the sooner you get the results back, if someone is positive, then that's when the contact tracing works, and it works more effectively. If testing takes a week or longer to get the results back, then the contact tracing doesn't work as effectively. So I actually today visited with leaders over at the Nevada Health Centers to talk about what they're doing from a testing standpoint. I went myself to UMC to look at their testing capacity. I know the Culinary Health Center has been involved in this as well. And so we just need to get this money from the federal government to the public health agencies and to the workforce partners so that they can train up a cadre of people to do the testing, to do the tracing, and to do the surveillance. Nevada has a pretty good structure in place. It could be better, but they can't get better without the resources and the funding. And that's what the governor and other leaders in the state have told me, is that they're just waiting for those resources to come in so that they can put them to good use.
Thanks, Congressman. And maybe can you tell us a little bit about what is the timeline you think for the rest of the summer here? Because like the need is great, but we've got some real roadblocks over in the Senate with the Republicans. We hope to do something about that in November. We plan to be in a very big way out. It'll be a little bit different this time around, but it's still about getting folks registered and getting them out to vote. And we hope to change that roadblock and kind of remove that roadblock for you. But in the meantime, this is a tough situation. There's a lot of folks really hurting right now. And so what do you envision as this looks like over the next few weeks and throughout the rest of the summer?
So we're going to have a busy 2 weeks when we get back on July 20th, and then may go into the first part of August. Typically, Congress is on what's called a district work period in the month of August, but because we are in a pandemic and we lost legislative days back in March and April, our leadership in the House has told us that we will work whenever we need to work to get the job done for the American people during this pandemic. So we've wanted to work 2 months ago to get this legislation done. It literally has been 2 months yesterday that the HEROES Act was passed by the House and has been sitting over in the Senate. But it is my hope that over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will get final breakthrough and negotiation with them on the major tenets of this bill. That would provide that state and local government of $1 trillion that I talked about. It would extend unemployment benefits to January of 2021. It would add that $600 extra pandemic unemployment for those who need it and qualify. We're asking for another direct cash payment of $1,200, more money for food banks and agencies that are providing food, more than more than $150 billion in housing assistance to help people pay their mortgage and their rent, as well as landlords who have been working with people so that they don't get evicted, and money for education. You know, a lot of talk has been happening about whether or not we should reopen our schools. Well, here's my statement. Schools cannot be reopened if they are not safe. It's not just about the kids, it's about the teachers and the other education support personnel, many of whom have underlying health conditions, and we cannot put anyone in danger if it is not safe. Right now, the Clark County School District, which is the 5th largest school district in the country, nearly 1/3 of those students don't have access to the internet. So distance learning, while it's an option, isn't an option for everyone when they don't have access to it, if parents don't feel equipped to work with their children and teachers aren't properly trained to do distance learning. So we've got a big package on this, and I think this will be a huge part of the debate over the next couple of weeks, because as I'm a product of the Clark County School District, I've got 3 children. All of us are facing this. I know many of your members have kids in the school system. We just want to make sure that they're safe. Beyond just reopening our schools, we also need a more investment in childcare, because too many of our workers who have to go back to work need adequate childcare and safe and clean childcare, quality childcare to put their children in as well. So those are all the major tenets that we are fighting for. We've got about 2 to 3 weeks to get it done. Then there'll be a break, and then we come back in September and we'll continue to work. But as you said, there's a big election in November, not just for president, but for the congressional seats and the legislative seats, school board, and everything else. So we do need people to stay engaged, to make sure that their voices are heard. We're also voting to try to help to protect our elections, to make sure that they are safe and secure, that we don't have outside interference from Russia or other foreign players, and that we have what we call stay-at-home voting. where people can cast their ballot without having to stand in line for hours and hours in order to have their voice heard at the ballot box. So these are some of the priorities that we're fighting for. I know that there's the same priorities that the culinary workers and Unite Here are fighting for, and I'm proud to be in this fight with all of you. I can't do it without you, though. I want to say that this is not something that I could ever do alone, and you all help put the pressure. We call it the inside game and the outside game. But the inside game, which is where I'm at, is nowhere, it cannot be effective without all of the outside influence that the culinary workers in 226 put into this fight every single day. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We really appreciate your time. You've been a tireless worker and a fighter for workers like us, but all hospitality and workers in Las Vegas and throughout the state of Nevada. We need that. I think we just want to make sure we know what's the best way to contact your office if we want to talk to somebody at your office and get a message to you, Congressman.
Thank you. Thank you again, President Pappageorge and the Culinary Workers 226. So through my official office, you can contact me or my staff. The number is 702-963-9360. Again, that's 702-963-9360. If you have any type of issue, federal, state, local concern that you're dealing with, particularly with a federal agency, please let us know. We can work with you to get that addressed, whether you're a veteran, if you have Social Security or Medicare issues, if you're a student trying to get a grant through the Department of Education or other needs. Immigration is a big one. You can contact us. You can also go to our website, which is horsford.house.gov. Again, that's horsford.house.gov. You can actually sign up for my newsletter, which we distribute on a regular basis to stay up to date on all of the legislative action that we are working on, and to express your concerns, questions, or issues that you would like me to know about. So please contact us. We love to hear from constituents. You're the reason that we're in office, and I appreciate every time the constituents let us know how they feel, good, bad, or indifferent. I know everything is not always perfect. Right now, the unemployment issues have been a big frustration for a lot of people, and I know, because I've done those calls. We've had telephone town halls, and people have expressed their frustration. But then I get off that phone and I pick up the line and I talk to the state agencies and I ask them to help fix that problem, because that is part of our job too.
Thank you, Congressman. I can't say how important it is to have a culinary union member in Congress. That is critical. And I have to say, look, there are a lot of folks hurting, and you've been, like I said, a champion for workers and those that are in need. We need you. We need you. And we need to make sure we all keep fighting, we keep pushing. It's going to be quite difficult locally here in the state. You know, we got to make sure folks are safe. As you said, we got to make sure folks can go to work and not be worried that just by showing up at work, you're going to end up getting sick or even potential death and taking things home to your families. You know, nationally, there's a responsibility, and you've nailed it with the federal government, that the states can't do. The states are really doing their part. Unfortunately, there's a lack of leadership from the president. We all see that. So the governors, including our governor here in Nevada, they're doing their best, but there's a role for the federal government. And, you know, with leaders like you, we know that we got an opportunity to win, but we're going to keep fighting. And every day, we just know that we got to get up and take another big step forward. This is something we've never seen before. We've never lived through anything like this. And whether it's our own families or our neighbors, we're doing everything we can to try to make sure we have some real big arms around everybody, because we're going to need everybody to be able to get through this. And, you know, with somebody like you out there, it gives us a lot of hope. So we thank you so much, Congressman Horsford, and for everything you're doing. And, you know, we got a long ways to go, but I think if we do this together, we're going to be okay.
Thank you. We refer to CD4 as Culinary District 4. We got a lot of culinary members who call CD4 home, and I am so proud to represent them and all the other constituents. And thank you for this forum. It's been great to talk to you all. Chad, Lino, Christian, thank you so much for what you're doing. Keep up the work, keep up the advocacy, make sure your voice is heard in this process. Si se puede. Let's keep fighting.